podcast. I am Kevin. With me is Josh. This is the end of the regular season show and the start of the postseason show. Welcome in, Josh. How you doing? How you feeling on this? I don't know. Hounds start of the playoff. It's not an eve. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I wanted to work in an eve there, and it just didn't work. How you doing?
Doing good. Maybe we could bring back or / bring forward for the first time All Hounds Eve, which is something I've been trying to get off the ground for like years.
What's the history of All Hounds Eve?
So I've always wanted All Hounds Eve to be like, originally my idea was it would be the beginning of the season, like the day before the season begins. We all go out to like a bar or like have like, now that we have a local bar, we could do it where it's like we kind of have like just like a little bit of a party, a little bit of like hanging out, get just fun times right before the season starts.
Yeah.
The problem has been timing has always sucked for All Hounds Eve, like the last couple of years, and like finding a place we can do it at and all that kind of stuff. So that is the idea behind it.
Well, now you have a location.
Yeah.
I don't know if the timing still sucks.
We'll see. Yeah. And it's also one of those things where it's like, hey, do you want to come out and hang out at a bar at night and then wake up early tomorrow and tailgate from noon to 7 p.m. So it's kind of like we kind of already do a party the day of.
Right.
But yeah, All Hounds Eve has been a thing I thought would be cool to do.
I mean, if there's ever a time to do it, you have momentum behind you at this stage.
Right.
All right, so let's paint the picture here. I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of chat around looking forward rather than necessarily lingering on this game. This game that I refer to was a 0-0 draw. Our last game of the regular season, going away to Detroit. We see a little bit of changes in the lineup. We can talk about that a little bit. I mean, the context going into this was no matter what happened for us, nothing was going to change. We were going to remain top of the East. We already have player shield and everything is all good. For Detroit, they needed a result independent of whatever was going to happen with Miami. And they needed Miami to lose. Miami was playing a top opponent in the West. I just can't remember what, Sacramento maybe ish.
Yes.
Okay. So Detroit needed a result, and we didn't care. and they end up getting a result. It's a 0-0 draw. I don't know. Yeah, Josh, how was your thoughts on this kind of final game of the regular season? I mean, I referenced maybe some of the changes in the lineup. We had a discussion on last week's podcast around what we all thought. I remember what Steve and Liz were there, and we were all talking about stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. How did you think everything played out?
Well, first off, the lineup, I was a little bit surprised by the lineup. I did think it wasn't that big of a change. There's a couple of changes in there. Obviously, Garner and Net was a huge one, which is expected since Jamali is with the national team.
Right.
But it was a situation where I thought we played a more, not aggressive, but just a more standard lineup than I thought we would.
Yeah.
And I also was surprised by some of the substitutions and like when we made them and the ones we didn't make. The biggest thing that caught my eye was Dequa. Dequa played the full 90. Like that was like a choice. Like I'm like, we could be resting him right now because he, has a huge game coming up. Well, we all have a huge game coming up, obviously, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to softball this in there because it deserves its own kind of big, discussion and celebration and announcement. But Dequa ends the season with a golden boot with 20 goals. Huge win. I didn't think he would do it, and he did it, and he was the best goal scorer in the league this season.
Yeah, it was super close. I don't know if you saw, but was it Tampa? The other
3-2?
player. What was that?
Oh, it was 3-2. What, Tampa played Louisville, and I know what Tampa won 3-2.
Yeah, but the problem was like they had 2 goals in a row, and it was both what's his name, the guy who was right behind Dequa in the standings, and so he got to 19, and like after scoring like literally, I think let me see, he scored Jennings scored in the 36th minute and the 38th minute, and he was at 19 goals. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's the first half. Like, chill out, Jennings.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to score any more goals, even though you're playing a admittedly weaker Louisville side this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was getting a little bit worried there because he was scoring left and right, and it was kind of getting scary.
Well, that was going to be my context was like, or my question, no, not context. I didn't think going into this game that like, yeah, it was in threat of being taken over. But yeah, I guess as soon as those 2 goals go over, and I can't remember the timeline. I don't know if Tampa kicked off like before Detroit or.
Oh, for sure. So Tampa was at 7:30.
Oh, okay.
So Tampa started at 7:30, and then the Detroit game was 4 p.m. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
like plenty of time. I had switched over to that game afterwards, and I'm
Right.
like, oh no, oh no. Like I also didn't really pay attention at first. I'm just like, oh, that'll be a fun game to watch. And then
Right.
I realized who was in the standings behind Dikwa. And seeing those 2 goals in a row is like rushed to my phone. Like, he's not there yet, is he? It's like, okay, no, we still have one more goal before they're like level. So it was definitely nail biting there. I mean, just to go back to the Detroit game,
Yeah.
this was a frustrating game because I did feel like this should have been a game you put away. I know you're in front of Detroit. I know that they have a lot more to play for than the Hounds do, but it's not a great team, and you have to beat the not great teams. And like, Detroit needed all the help in the world to get into the playoffs. So yeah, we can discuss it a little bit, but I guess the question is, are we glad we were playing Detroit, on Saturday for the first round, or would we have rather had Miami? Personally, I would rather had Miami just because I feel like their schedule has been a little bit more harsh near the end there. They
Hmm.
had a lot more travel. Like, they had to go all the way to the West Coast to, Sacramento to do that game, coming right back, then flying again to Pittsburgh. Like, that's a little bit more miles on them than Detroit having to play at home and then drive the
Go to
short
Pittsburgh.
drive
Yeah.
to Pittsburgh and play us. Like, it's not a huge amount of travel that they've had to deal with the last couple of weeks, whereas Miami has a lot more. So just
I
in that
get.
aspect alone.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you remove that aspect though, and even before this Detroit game, I don't know, would you still have taken Miami over Detroit, regardless of how the performance went against Detroit in Detroit this past weekend?
I mean, I feel like if they were both, like, let's say it was like a closer team than Miami, but the same, like,
Right.
just like if everything was equal,
Right.
I do think there's something to be said about playing a team that you have never lost to, which is Detroit. We've never lost to Detroit. So it's like, that is nice to have.
Yeah.
Um, but it isn't, it's also a situation where I feel like Detroit is one of those teams that somehow seems to punch above their, weight a lot of times. So it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, if this is one of those games where it's like super rainy, super slippy out, and like it's crazy, like maybe you don't want the team that has, the more passion. Not to
Yeah.
say that Miami doesn't have that. I'm sure their players have passion as well,
Right.
but there is something about the Detroit side that, you want it, if it's on even grounds, you want it to be a lot more of a, you know, battle of just who's the better team, not
Yeah.
so much who's the luckier team.
I do think the point around we've never lost to Detroit. I think that probably I didn't identify it and I didn't put words to it, but I think that was probably playing on me more than I thought it would. What for whatever reason in my head, yeah, I have memories of tough games against Miami, and yeah, I just don't have that memory with Detroit. And in fact, I remember that what we when we played them this season at Highmark, what I think we won 2-0.
Yep.
And I remember it was just a really solid performance end to end, and we played really well, and we were the better team. So yeah, I think a lot of that kind of plays on me. I don't know. Yeah, for me, I think I would have still taken Detroit. I think I said that last week, and I'm still happy with this outcome. I mean, by the numbers, they've had a bad season this season. I mean, they get into the playoffs, but I'm trying to stall for time to look at the yeah, I mean, so they finished this season with the least goals scored, and
Yeah.
yeah, with -8 more goal difference than compared to Miami. And so yeah, I mean, they haven't had a great season, but yeah, I don't know. But it's Fort Highmark, and it doesn't really matter who we play there other than Indy this season, but we don't have to talk about that anyway.
I mean, honestly, I don't think I can really say either one of these teams scare me, Miami or Detroit, as far as taking them on first.
Yeah,
Um, and that's good because if the eighth place team scares you and you just won the whole league in first place, then there's a problem. I
yeah.
feel like that's a lack of confidence there in this team and the belief that they can get it done, which I do believe they can get it done, especially against either Miami or Detroit.
I guess before moving too further on beyond this game, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned the goalkeeper change. That was not a surprise because of Jamali White being out. Um, I don't know. I mean, the back line didn't really surprise me. Etu, Ordonez, Farrow, Hogan, Rivera, Ibarra, and Griffin getting to midfield. Mertz getting in maybe ahead of other midfield options. Kenny being one of them. Kenny comes on later in the game. Aubergeon Jr. I think was the one that was interesting for me, and maybe not Kiza. I don't know if Josh, you know of anything happening maybe around like potential injuries or knocks or whatever, but
I have not heard anything about that. I'm thinking that was just one of those changes that was to rotate a little bit, just to give run a little bit more of a chance.
yeah,
So I'm happy to see that one. That was actually a change that I was expecting going to this one, was to
right,
see a change up in the front lineup. Um, but the fact that Decoy was not part of that changing, or at least not like an early sub, was
right.
the biggest surprise to me.
Got to ensure that golden boot. Going back to the individual accolades for that, uh, Mike put a little bit of bullet points here to just kind of remind me and keep the pace here with the agenda. Kenny was tied for the most assists with 10. Unfortunately, I don't know who he was tied with, but unfortunately, he can get that last assist. What that has to be, he's had to have hit the 10 mark in an assist season now
Yeah,
three
yeah,
or four
like
times with the Hounds.
that's not a new thing for him.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty standard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that does mean though he did lose out because technically the assist winner had was it less minutes than he did. So the way it worked was like if you guys had tied in the assists, whoever had the least amount of minutes, they had a higher percentage of assists per minute. Uh,
Why
so
don't they just split it? That's
it is what it is. But
yeah,
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 it's yeah. I guess if it was my player who actually got it, I would not be upset.
yeah. And then the last point here, we finished the season top of the league with 15 clean sheets. Um, I don't that number kind of snuck up on me. I mean, I think towards the end we become a very strong defensive team. I think it was rocky for us. We had stretches and patches throughout the season where, what I think there was that stretch in the middle of the season where it was 3 games where we let in like a total of like 8 or 9 goals or something. And yeah, not it ends up being an extremely defensively sound Bob Lilly team, extremely defensively sound Pittsburgh Riverhounds team that defends collectively. But I don't know, that one kind of snuck up on me. I mean, I knew Deco was on the mark for it, and I think maybe that's all I was paying attention. But yeah, the clean sheets, it's a really good stat to have going into the postseason where defense is so important.
It's so funny because I agree. Like this team, I don't consider like in the history of Bob Lilly teams for Pittsburgh to be the most sound defensively compared to some of the other teams we've had in the past. Uh, in fact, I remember multiple games where it's like, oh, they got it in one goal, like the other team. Like it's fine
Right.
because we scored 2 or 3 goals, but like, oh, they got it in one. Like that seemed to happen more often than not. But it apparently we had just enough with the shutouts and getting a shutout. I will say getting a shutout last week was really nice to see because
Yeah.
since we did have our backup keeper in, I was worried about just leaking a goal here or there, if like him being off his line or something like that. But yeah, the defense and our keeper were able to keep it locked down, and that was the most impressive thing about this game last week was seeing how well the whole team did together, keeping pretty much all the threats away.
I think there's something to Mertz being in the midfield alongside Ibarra and Griffin. I know Lilly has done that in big games in the past where maybe he felt like he needed a little bit more energy in the midfield. Um, and I wonder, so I guess the point of this is to say it's not entirely unprecedented or a shock. Whereas I would like, going back to when we play Detroit again, in what, 5 days time. Um, I would be kind of surprised if it wasn't Dikwa and Kiza up top.
Yeah.
And I would be, maybe you swap in Dos Santos in the back line for one of the three central defenders, but generally that back line looks about the same. I would expect Ibarra and Griffin to start. Mertz is the question mark, where I don't, you can make an argument where you play Kenny ahead of them, or potentially even do something else. But I also don't get the sense that this was just purely rotation for rotation's sake, because we've seen this midfield before in games that kind of called for it. So I do wonder whether or not, like, I don't know. I don't know. We don't need to make this call now, but I guess I'm putting it out there in the universe to say, I wouldn't be shocked if Mertz gets to start this weekend against Detroit. And I don't know, maybe something, depending on how the game goes, that's when you can pull Kenny off the bench or something and do something big in that way. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird because I was curious what our lineup was for the 2-0 match against Detroit earlier this season.
Yeah.
And it is nothing like what we've been playing. Like,
Yeah.
Kiza, Dikwa, Griffin, Sweatsloot, Forbes, Rovey, DeShields, Farrell, Ordonez, Failing, and then Wait, obviously, in that. So I'm just like, nope, that's not the lineup we're gonna see. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that's happening. So it is funny to kind of like look at that lineup and be like, oh, I can't glean much from this. I don't think. I would be very surprised if that was the lineup.
Where did some of those names go?
I feel like a lot of it was just jockeying for positions, like people, getting a leg up. And like, I definitely think DeSantos is one of those players that now is a lock for starting if he can, usually. Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing your best lineup, which was not the case earlier in the season. So, like, that one right there, I feel like that's how that goes. Failing's also one of those players that I feel like doesn't get starts usually. Like,
Yeah.
and he never really got that many starts. So it is kind of interesting to see him start that game.
And has an argument for goal of the season.
Laser show,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be that surprising though. I feel like it's going to be not this last game's lineup, but we had 3 or 4 games there in a row where we had the same lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more towards that, with
Yeah.
maybe 1 or 2 changes, but not a lot. Um, I I think Forbes starts. I don't think you start Mertz over Forbes. You have 5 subs if you really think Forbes is not, able to do it, but he's the assist,
Yeah.
almost the assist leader of the season in USL. There's a reason he's a good player still. And very well, people are talking about like maybe this is his last year. I feel like we've said that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't put too much credence into it. But if this is his last year, like, yeah, he's starting. Come on.
My only thing with Kenny is I think it could benefit him to come into the game at a point where maybe more of the opposition legs are tired and a bit more space starts to open up in the midfield. Now, the whole 5 sub thing, you can just say, well, the likelihood of there being tired legs out there, when you have 5 subs at your disposal, maybe you can't really bank on that too much. But I just wonder if you can kind of read the kind of pulse of the game and bring in Kenny to maybe expose some space opening up later. But I don't know. Yeah, and he definitely gets minutes. I mean, without a doubt, he's a big time player, and I still,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I was just saying, like, for Kenny at least, like, I feel like if you're playing a team that isn't the most disciplined, wonder if what's better is a more precise tactical passer like
yeah,
Kenny, or someone with more speed uh like Mertz. Like, I feel like that those are your 2 options right now.
right,
Um and as far as a team that might make mistakes and leave, wider open spaces and people open up top, I think you go with Forbes there. Um you don't really need the raw speed, or like just like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain Mertz, because I do think Mertz had a good game against Detroit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, it was hard to see because since there were no goals, and you kind of think of Mertz's role as being someone who distributes for goals. I do still think he had a good game. And actually, Matt Geica, he lives in Michigan now. He got the tap from Pittsburgh Soccer Now to go and cover this game. So he wrote for Pittsburgh Soccer Now and covered the Detroit game. He was there, following him on Twitter and reading his article. He really had a lot of praise for Mertz's role that night. So uh, I don't think Mertz is unheard of. Like, I wouldn't be like completely shocked if Mertz is to get the start, but
Yeah.
I do think you just go with Forbes, play it more safe, and then
Yeah.
bring in Mertz if you have to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and to your point, yeah, I mean, there weren't any goals to talk about, and maybe that's why we're talking so much about lineups and, and what we think about what's going to happen with Detroit this weekend and everything. But yeah, I mean, um, the thing that pops out to my head was what Mertz had that free kick that like the Detroit keeper makes a pretty good save. I mean, there were chances in this game. And and it ends up being that kind of the weather that you kind of expect the Detroit versus Pittsburgh game to be, and the weather that you don't want if you're the better team, right? If you're the better team, you want blue skies and a good field, right? If you're the if you're the worst team, you want rain. And yes, I'm calling Detroit the worst team. So
Statistically speaking, you are correct. I mean, come
yeah,
on, they're in
exactly.
8th place versus first place.
It's not.
So
It's not. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we create more chances against a tough kind of tough situation for a Detroit team that's playing for the playoffs. And I think, yeah, you're right. We play really well, and I think that there's no kind of warning signs per se that make me concerned about anything going in this game particularly. Now, yes, the general, like, of course, it's a postseason game. Anything can happen. People can beat anyone on the day, but I don't know. There wasn't anything where it's like, well, that matchup could be a little sticky, like sticky on the left side or something. So, yeah, I think we're going into this postseason game pretty confidently.
yeah, I mean, like, and there's players on Detroit's side that I feel like are really good players. Like, and Steinwasser's one of them. Like, their keeper. I don't know how he's still there. Like, I honestly can't believe no one's poached him from Detroit. Just because of the fact that he probably is their best player. Which maybe that's because he gets more tested than other keepers, but I mean he keeps them in games a lot. So that is like probably the number one player I feel like on their team is Steinwasser.
But I don't know. It's not to worry. He's gonna have to have the game of his life.
No, I definitely think there's a lot to be said with the fact that playing at home, how much that means to this team,
Yeah.
how much that will change the look. It's called Fort Highmark for a reason right now. Like, one loss all season at home. That's crazy. That's fantastic. So like, and it can be a draw. So it's like, I feel like, it's definitely heavily stacked against Detroit coming into this match.
It's a pretty decent segue into maybe just a very quick point. I don't know if you caught the promotional video with the Hounds.
So good.
It was really good, right?
So good. Yeah. If you have not seen it, check it out. You can find it on like their Twitter account. I think they finally posted it on their YouTube as well. I've watched it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, it's so well done. Such a great video.
I wonder if there's anyone like that, has gone to Highmark this season and watched the Hounds as a fan of the Hounds and caught them, filming in town, like Mertz juggling it on the corner of a street corner or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, props to their like video department. I mean, they really kind of hit all the places. And
I feel like that had to have been outsourced. Like, I feel like they paid a real production company to make that video. Like, the camera quality was much better than what what the Hounds have for cameras. Like, that wasn't like just someone's GoPro or something like that. That was a legit camera.
Yeah. I was like, are those pores on skin I can see?
Yeah, it's like, holy crap, this is HD. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
We have a friend in the Steel Army, Peter. He used to actually work for the Hounds back in the day. He controlled the Jumbotron. Like, he did like the videos there. And when he left, he started his own company for video production. And like, every time I hang out with Peter, like, his comment is like, the Hounds are doing great. Yeah, like what they're doing front office wise, but I wish the video quality was better. I wish like, he's always kind of nitpicking that aspect. And when that video came out, I like went straight to him to see what his reaction was. He's like, yeah, that was really good. Like, this is exactly what we need to be
Sweet.
seeing from the Hounds. Like, he was super pumped about it. So I felt
Nice.
like that was a good sign.
And I mean, what I'm guessing they'll get play around that. I don't know. It feels like that's something that you put on like TV commercials or
Oh,
something.
for sure. Like, that
Yeah.
has to get some actual commercials. And I also feel like KDKA has been doing a really good job for them this year. There's been plenty of anecdotal evidence from people I've talked to where they're like, yeah, my dad will like, or like, my family who doesn't usually watch soccer, like they see it on KDKA. So like sorry, KDKA Plus, as the channel is now known as. When they see it on, they switch over to it and watch it because it's like right there. And like their their personalities, like news and all that kind of stuff, are talking about it. So it's kind of like getting the word out more. So there is a lot to be said about having that synergy with KDKA.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a better time to talk about all of this that I don't know, everything that went right this season for the Hounds at like an end of the season show. And that's definitely something that I'm sure we'll touch on is just the broader theme of everything going right off the field too, and the Hounds making kind of strategic partnerships around the city to get the word out. And I mean, even to the I think I saw I forget what Twitter account, but like what the new like Penguins president or something. I don't know. Some new Penguins front
Yeah.
office person like was giving an interview and mentioned offhandedly that like, oh yeah, I went to like the Riverhounds game and everything like that. I mean, just things like that. We're just like, okay, it's getting in the zeitgeist of people talking in Pittsburgh and sports fandom and everything more and more and more. And um, it's a little cross promotional too. I ended up watching a Penguins game for the first time in like a decade. No joke. Like I haven't watched like hockey at all forever. And I was like, oh, I'll just flip it on.
I did the same, but that's because the Hounds played early. So like after the Hounds game was over, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? There's no games on for a little bit. Oh, the Penguins are playing. Why not? I'll watch that.
Yeah.
And then I switched over to Tampa versus Louisville because this was like, this is important to me.
got your hockey fill for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hockey's great. I like watching it live. It's fun. But
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So wrapping up the regular season ish, and like I said, what we can do it more formally and kind of have a broader look back over the entire body of work at the end of the season. But let's just take a look here at the final Eastern Conference standings. I mean, been, we've already said, but yes, we're playing Detroit in the first round of the playoffs, and we'll show the playoff bracket, and we'll talk about the playoff bracket here in a second. But the Hounds finished first, 4 points clear of Tampa, who finished in second. Tampa get a win on their last game of the season against Louisville. Charleston finishing third on 59 points. Memphis, Louisville, Indy, Birmingham, which, if you want to talk about maybe underperformers of the season, I
yeah.
expected a lot more from Birmingham this season. And Detroit running out the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. And then Miami, Tulsa, Loudoun, and Hartford all don't make the playoffs. Surprise, surprise. I don't know. Yeah, Loudoun and Hartford.
No surprises there at
Yeah,
all. Yeah. Like
yeah.
Fraudford was absolutely frauds, even more so than usual this season. 18 total points in the whole season, negative 39 goal differential.
Man,
Absolutely terrible. Like that's just ugh.
do you think there's anyone like? No, I don't want. This is almost too. I was gonna I was like, do you think there's anyone not like directly associated with the club that like goes to like every home game for Hartford and just watches them just lose constantly? This is really rude. I need to stop talking.
I don't know if you have been following the Hounds forever or not, but there's been plenty of seasons where I felt the same way about the Hounds.
Well, yeah, but come on, 4 wins
Oh
and
no, no, not this
24
bad.
losses.
Yeah, yeah. I can't say I remember a season being that abysmal. But yeah, there's it's hard, but maybe you rough it out. You have to watch them lose all this, and then when they end up being middle of the table, you feel like, wow, that's a really great season. And I'm talking about Everton, but it's it is what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so the Hounds and just to kind of close out this graphic, the Hounds finished with 19 wins, 5 losses, and 10 draws. Positive goal differential 21, with a total points of 67. We go. Well, I can't remember. I mean, yeah. When was the last time we lost?
It's been a while. I will say that we had a great season, but it could have been a really nice season if we would have won the last game. I don't know if you got
Okay.
that reference or not.
No. I didn't get that
We
reference.
almost had 69 points. Would have been nice.
Yeah, I wasn't quick enough. Shame on me. I should have caught that. The last time we lost was Orange County. We went away to Orange County on August 16th. So it's been exactly a month to date from us recording this from our last loss. So, yeah, really, really good regular season. And the Hounds get home playoff, home field advantage for the entirety of the playoffs, including a championship match if we happen to make it.
When we happen to make it.
When we happen to make it. I've already tempted fate a lot in this podcast, Josh. So I'm just trying to.
I'm going to believe. This feels like
This is the season to do it.
I mean, this has been a huge season.
Yeah.
We were talking about it in Discord, on the Steel Army Discord. Golden Boot, the beating 2 MLS teams in the Open Cup, one at home in front of the biggest crowd ever. The biggest crowd we've ever had for the final season, like an in-season game, was the last game of the season at home. So that was fantastic. We had, Golden Boot. We had not supporter, sorry, player shield. And just it's been an amazing year. Like, this year is just, it has never been this good to be a Hounds fan. And I'm ready for the postseason. I'm ready to see us keep that going. We have 2 more trophies to win, because Eastern Conference final will give us a trophy there, and then the actual winner of it all, playoff trophy. So yeah, I'm ready.
No matter what happens, is this the best season under Lily?
I mean, best season period. Like, it's not even just under Lily. Like,
Yeah.
there hasn't been this good of a season.
Yeah.
As a Hounds fan. We finally need a freaking trophy cabinet for the first time. So can't complain there.
Yep.
No,
And-
yeah, this season's been amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I did not predict this, obviously, going into the season. It felt like a little bit dire because of the fact that we lost so many players. I remember earlier this week, I think it was USL stats, or why am I just blanking on
USL
this?
Tactics?
Thank you. Jeez, I
Yeah.
could not remember his handle.
Yeah.
USL Tactics was talking about the Hounds and, like, in his standings and predictions and all that. And it was he was even saying, like, oh yeah, it looked bad. Like, I had them rated so bad this year because of all the players they lost. And then, who would have known? Like, this was the best season ever for the Hounds.
Lily doesn't need I don't know. He doesn't need, I think, what we've come to expect the average manager needs to turn something into a great season.
I mean, he knows how to recruit players that fit into the system that he can do.
Yeah.
So he knows what to look for. He finds them, and he's like, yeah, I can mold that player into, like, the system I need him to play in. And I feel like that is the biggest win when it comes to Lily. Like, his biggest talent is the fact that he can do that. He can take a whole new group of players and be like, no, I know these players will all work in my system, and I can make them do exactly what I need, just like last year, just like the year before that. So he sometimes, gets more lucky than other times. And I do feel like there's sometimes where he not him in particular, but, like, we think there's a player, like, oh, this is going to be a great get for us, like Dennis Chen or something like that. And it's like, oh, it turns out, no, that was, great player, but not great for our system.
Right.
And you'll have that.
Dos Santos being converted to a left center back. Yeah. I mean, Funky Azil being converted to a center back. Yeah. I mean, there's examples over and over and over. Brian James being pushed everywhere.
Blackstock, I feel like, is also one of those.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, Blackstock's a forward. Is he?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that too. I have to talk about that too. I mean, like, but I think even his position, you can still make an argument. He's still midfield-ish in his position with, like, left wing back. But all right, so let's turn the attention officially to postseason. Here we'll pull up the playoff bracket for those who watch with the video. Eastern Conference, starting there, we have Detroit first versus eighth, and then Memphis plays Louisville, Charleston plays Indy, and Tampa plays Birmingham. Let's not be too concerned with the Western Conference at this point. Yeah, I don't think we need to. So yeah, I mean, if I'm about to eat my own words here because I don't know. I should know a lot better the kind of official rules and regulations around the USL, but I'm just in my little Pittsburgh Riverhound silo. Josh, do you know if the playoff bracket plays out like it shows on the screen? So no matter what, we play the winner of Memphis Louisville, or do we? Is
Yes.
it okay? Cool.
There's no reseeding in this year. It's pretty much just what you see is what you get there. So it makes it a lot easier to figure out what's going on. I will say, I mean, I'm going on a ledge here, but I do think Memphis is going to beat Louisville. I feel like that's one of those games where everyone's expecting Louisville to be Louisville and be able to make a playoff run. I know, history shows that, but this is not the Louisville of old. I think we see Louisville bow out in the first round, which will be extremely strange. But yeah, I don't think we're seeing Louisville in the second round like we have in so many years in the past.
I could get behind that. Yeah, I mean, especially with the kind of season they had and how they finished off the season. I don't know. There have been a couple un-Louisville moments. I mean, yeah, leaking the goals they have. Although what they end up with a pretty decent defensive record, I think. Goals against they let in 44 goals over the course of the season. I mean, no, that's not. Let's put it this way. I would say that's very average for the Eastern Conference when you look at what everyone else has done. And I don't know. You expect Louisville to kind of be up there with us defensively, and yeah, I know. I can get behind that call. Although I will say, if I'm trying to be honest with myself, maybe subconsciously there's a little bit of I don't really want to play Louisville in the playoffs because of history and blah blah blah. I know this is a different Louisville team, but there's just something maybe about facing Louisville when the result matters as far as advancing to the playoffs. So, but we'll see. So yeah, if we play Detroit, the winner of that gets Memphis, Louisville, and then Charleston, Indy, Tampa, Birmingham play out the bottom of the bracket. And then we see what happens. So I don't know, not too much more to talk about the structure of that one. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to talk about here, Josh? I mean, you called Louisville maybe bowing out. Is there anything else that you want to note in the first round here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tampa is an obvious. They're a really good side this year, and Birmingham has been struggling. So I would be very surprised if Tampa loses at home against Birmingham. So that's like an easy one to call. I do think maybe the only upset we see is Indy beating Charleston, just because Charleston has been weird lately. Like I don't know, maybe that is me playing off the fact that Charleston historically, at least in the modern day, Indy has been much better. I feel like so.
Is
I don't
there
know.
anything about Indy being the one who beat us at home this year that you wouldn't want to play them?
Maybe that is playing a role into it. I don't know. Like I didn't really think about that, but like I just don't feel that confident about Charleston with their more recent losses and yeah.
No, I'm with you. I don't know. Louisville and Charleston are always the two teams that for whatever reason, I just don't like playing.
Yeah, so I wouldn't doubt if it's Indy versus Tampa in the second round, and then if we actually see Tampa obviously winning that one, I feel like, and then it happening to be us versus Tampa again, farther down in the bracket.
So you just laid it out. You think it's going to be us
I think
versus
that's the Eastern
Memphis?
Conference Final is Tampa versus Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean that's obvious. It's the number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. I feel like that's not a huge
Right.
hot take there,
Yeah.
but I do think that's what we end up seeing.
Well, you called Indy beating Charleston. We'll see if that plays out.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the playoff bracket, and then we can turn our attentions directly to the replay against Detroit this weekend at Highmark. Detroit coming to town. I don't know, Josh. I mean, so what do you think? Does the psychology change at all based off of what happened in the previous game? I don't know. I'm trying to dress this as like, I mean, obviously we walk in this game supremely confident. Not only just forget about who the opponent is, but based off of our record, based off of how good of a season we've had, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there is something a little bit of added interesting context around this based off that we just played them.
Yeah, and I think in that situation, I take Bob over their coach as far as
Yeah,
being able to glean something from that match. I feel like Tampa was playing their best lineup possible because they absolutely needed that point or a win. So we saw what they have fully um, in their element. So I do feel like Bob has the upper hand there, just in the who was playing,
yeah,
but also Bob's mentality, Bob's history. I feel like tactically he's going to be the one that's going to be able to rip that game apart and see what we need to do. If he did, I mean, it's not like he didn't already know what he needed to do. Like there's obviously only certain things that he can glean that he didn't already know about uh, Detroit. So when it comes down to it, we definitely have the tactician in Bob, and the
yeah,
fact that he's going to be able to do this.
yeah. No, I completely agree. And I know it's very early, and weather predictions change. But right now in Pittsburgh, the game's Saturday at 7 p.m. And the forecast is 57 degrees with about a 25% chance of rain.
Yeah, I
So
feel like it's if I remember right, it's supposed to rain a lot earlier in the day.
yeah,
And then by the time game time rolls around, it shouldn't be that bad as far as the rain goes, percentage wise. So I don't think we're going to see as terrible of some playoff games that we have as far as weather goes. There's been some absolute, windy, gusty, rainy, cold games. I don't think it's going to be that terrible. I say all this knowing that I also am not going to be there. Unfortunately, I have a trip to Vegas, so uh, have a vacation. Did not plan on it being exactly when the playoffs were, but there it is. We didn't really have a choice because it was a festival we're going to. But yeah, I'm super sad I'm going to be missing this game because this is probably I feel like even with that weather, it's going to be the
yeah,
most fans we've ever had. Again,
yeah,
maybe as much as Columbus, if not more.
yeah. No,
Um,
I if it does end up raining and it's a little cool, I'm picturing like a Helm's Deep moment where it's just like
nice.
just super intimidating and just yeah, I can't imagine it's going to be fun for Detroit coming into town.
It's gonna
Um,
be so good. It's
I
gonna be
can't
so
remember
good.
the Birmingham game where we beat them 8-0 or in the first round of the playoffs,
Is it 7? I think. Anyway.
7-0. In my head it was raining in that
Oh yeah,
game.
that was a terrible game as well. As
Yeah,
far as
yeah,
weather goes, that was
right,
absolutely not fun as far as dealing with that weather. But
right,
you wouldn't have known it looking at the sports section. Like it was
yeah,
packed, and
yeah,
yeah, there's been some playoff games where I'm just like, oh, okay, weather wise, but I don't think this is going to be one of them. I do think this is going to be relatively a okay weather game.
yeah. No, and if we're doing our bit to try to get everyone out there as much as possible, no, it's sunny skies, guys. Just 7-2, just go.
I don't
It's
think
gonna
they
be
need it
great.
actually. Like
That's
this year
true.
has really been a test for that for some of these games, and we saw people stay in their seats, people stick it out and through rain. So I don't think we're gonna see a lot of the grandstand clear out at all, even if it is a little rainy. Um, yeah, I would not be surprised at a packed house. And if you look at what's available on Ticketmaster right now, like I don't know if they're like holding a lot of tickets back, but there's like a trickle of seats at the grandstand, like hardly anything. I cannot believe like it's only Monday and Ticketmaster already looks like sold out almost. So
Nice. And there's a secondary market on Ticketmaster, right, to resell stuff, but I doubt like that stuff's going for anything.
we've started to see that with some Hounds game. Like I know even with the Columbus game, there was some of that weird like, oh, the pricing has increased because of blah blah blah, or like the resale price and yeah, yada yada. Um, we also had a scalper, I think, outside of that game too, if I remember right. You know, asking if anyone had tickets. I'm like, what? This is weird.
I know.
Like,
So it's a new I don't
you
know.
love to see it. You love to
Yeah.
see it, and hopefully more of that. I wanted to be complaining about scalpers in the future of the Hounds.
What, 7 p.m. Saturday night. Josh, do you think you can find like a bar in Vegas at 4 p.m. or something, and just like, hey, can you turn on the
This
Riverhounds
is the
game?
problem. I'm gonna be at that festival. I'm going to. It's the When We
Mhm.
Were Young festival. So like Blink 182, Green Day, Simple Plan, Something Corporate, Yellow
Nice,
Card, like all these like old, poppy punk bands are
nice.
playing, and I'm gonna be in the thick of it. So like, West Coast time, so it'll be 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
Uh yeah, I already looked at the schedule and the lineup. I'm like, well, there's bands I want to see at that time. So I'm gonna be like holding my phone,
yep,
watching the game
yep.
not in the pit, but like, in the crowd. Like I already, I gotta
So,
do what I gotta do. So I'm gonna
sounds like a
be,
good time.
yeah.
Yeah, you get a little bit of Hounds, a little bit of yeah. I mean, it sounds
Oh
good.
man, if we lose, don't no, we're not gonna lose. We're not gonna lose. I'm just saying, like,
Don't say
how
that.
how much of a bummer will that be watching like Blink 182 and Green Day and being like,
But what a way to pick up your spirits, right?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Tom DeLonge can do that for me. Not even not even a full newly reformed Blink 182 can make me not upset after that.
This is too much of a tangent, but I will say I was really impressed with Blink 182 at what Coachella.
It's funny. So this is a tangent. Sorry everyone.
I didn't go to
Uh
Coachella. By the way, I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
watched it
yeah,
on
yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
or whatever.
Watching the
Yeah,
Young T.
yeah.
But the last time I saw Blink 182 live, the only time I saw them live was the Pop Disaster tour with Green Day. And they absolutely sucked. Like
Oh,
they
really?
were so drunk. They did not like couldn't remember their lyrics. They were pretty much just talking over the songs because they couldn't sing. And
Jeez.
I was so disappointed in them. And then Green Day went on and like killed it. Like they were like the best band I've ever seen live at that time.
Yeah.
And so it was so like juxtaposition of seeing like Blink 182 just their normal shtick, but just like making, you know, jokes the whole time, and then seeing Green Day like just nail it. And yeah, I it's funny because this When We Were Young concert or festival, it's Blink 182 playing, and then right after Green Day, so it's gonna be the exact same feel. I'm like, man, Green
Don't let
Day
me down.
or no, I mean Blink, yeah, don't let me down. I want this to be the redemption.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping.
sounded good. Um, I don't know. What else can we
Let's see
say?
here.
Yeah,
Playoff
let's.
game, tailgate. We're actually starting at noon. So the tailgate will be kicking off early, which is probably good because parking lot is probably sold out already. I'm assuming. I haven't seen the text yet, but it sells out every normal season game, so I'm sure it will sell out this game as well. Um, we're gonna have our tailgate spot in the same area. We're not gonna have those empty spots though, because we did not pay for those because those are expensive. So, but we are gonna have a lot of people parked in the VIP section where we normally are hanging out. It is a whiteout. Sorry, white at. I can't say how you're supposed to
White
say it.
at.
At yeah, because apparently whiteout is copyright or trademark or something like
Is
that
this
by
seriously?
yeah by some college team. I can't remember who.
Oh my god.
So that's why it's spelled differently.
Are we gonna get taken down now that we said
I
that?
said it with the accent. It's fine. Uh, uh, but if you don't have a white shirt, we still have our Fort Highmark shirts at tailgate, so you can always buy a shirt there and just throw that on.
God's
Uh,
work. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying it's good luck shirt because that's the tifo we use for the Columbus game. So and that was also a white app. So
Nice. You nailed
see how I did it? I thought I did
it.
pretty good that time. That was pretty good. Give this Ohioan a little slack. So yeah, that's at noon. Grill's gonna be there. Dogs are gonna be cooking. Uh, so yeah, come out. Thunderstruck at I don't know what time. Probably 6 o'clock to get us in there early. Probably.
Is
Yeah.
our Saturday 7 p.m. kickoffs the norm if and when we advance in this round?
I think that's what's gonna be. I know that the final got announced, and the final's not until 9 p.m. That's probably one of those
Freaking
things
West
to
Coast teams, yeah.
West Coast and East Coast playing together, and also it's on ESPN too, so it's like on a legit ESPN channel. So I'm sure that's also like a cheaper time slot to get
Yeah.
us in there, or less desirable time slot, I should say. But I'm not complaining. 9 o'clock,
Just more time to tailgate.
yeah. Maybe I'm complaining a little bit that it's on a Sunday at
Oh, yeah,
9 p.m.
that is not good. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, that's not as cool. But I think the rest of these games will be on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's not I don't know. Maybe the city will do what they did when, like, the Steelers won the Super Bowl and they just gave kids the day off after or something. That'd be nice.
think that's wishful thinking, but okay.
Scalpers first, and
Listen, yeah,
then
scalpers first, real commercial with HD cameras first, and then
Yeah.
scalpers, and then let's worry about kids getting the day off.
Something to aspire to.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta leave us room to grow here.
Wrapping up regular season pick'em. Mike, congratulations, Mike. Even though you can't win anything, finishes top of the regular season. Once again, reminder: we're going to continue this on the postseason. Mike, you got 35 points. Michael Finn is sitting top of the non-Mongols crew at 29 points. Keaton Liebengood at 27 points. Laura Ellen at 25, and Devin Pale at 24, and me at 23. And so, yeah, like I said, but this isn't the end. This is the end of the regular season pick'em scores, but we still please get in your picks for Detroit. And yeah, we're going to continue on until the end of the final after
Yeah.
the Riverhounds win it all. So
it's gonna be interesting people picking right now because like you have to pick Hounds win, right? Like if you were to pick Hounds lose and they were to actually lose, you know how terrible you would feel.
maybe you really need those points though, and you
I don't
really
know.
need.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna think less of you if you pick Hounds lose and you win the pick 'em. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
letting you know.
and you get those season tickets next year, and you're in the Steel Army, and Josh is just gonna look
Look
at
at
you
you right in the
side-eye.
eyes. I'll know. You know I know.
I don't like how you got here. All right. I don't know. Is there anything else? I don't know. I mean, final thoughts on this going into this Detroit game. To reiterate, not that I'm trying to set up anything here. No matter what happens in this postseason, yeah, I'm totally with you, Josh. This has been the best season as far as I've been a fan of the Hounds already. And boy, do we have a nice postseason set up for us. We have a ton of momentum, a really good squad, top goal scorer, most clean sheets, extremely talented, experienced manager, home field advantage. I mean, what's not to like? So yeah, no, feeling really good and going into this postseason game.
Not a single team I'm really that afraid of. Like there's teams I
Yeah,
think are good, but I'm not afraid of these teams.
yeah,
We just beat Tampa in Tampa. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's
Beat
the
them
spectrum.
well.
Yeah,
Beat them
exactly.
really
Like
well.
it wasn't even like I felt like it was like a close game. It's like no, we did a hell of a job in that game, and like
Yeah,
that's the number 2 team in the East, and at their house, they're gonna have to come to our house. Like
yeah.
all these teams have to come to Fort Highmark. This is our year. We have to believe, and it's gonna be spectacular.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up. For those of you putting in messages, sorry, I try to catch it. It's actually a little hard to host and click on graphics and
What?
click on things and click on,
Mike has an
it's
easy job. What are you talking about?
Mike does it better than I do, but yeah, I think Josh, you kind of wrapped it up really poetically. So we'll leave it there. I don't have an outro in front of me. I don't know. Go to bgn.fm. Go watch more USL stuff. Watch the Penguins if you like hockey, but get down to Highmark if you plan on making it. Watch it in a concert field if you have to, but be there and support the Hounds in your own way. And thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.